Hello, mabuhay. Good afternoon in the Philippines. Good morning in Cyprus. Good morning as well in Greece and in the US. Thank you everyone for your lending your precious time today. First and foremost, I would like to thank the following organizations who supported this free event. First, the Blocko, the University of Nicosia, the Asian Consulting Group, and the Commission on Audit of the Philippines for promoting this event. And again, it is my honor to host and be the moderator for this critical topic. And I will be joining by three panel of experts, Dr. Maria Papadaki of the British University of Dubai, and of very own Philippine tax whiz Mon Abrea of Asian Consulting Group, and of course, Alexis Nicola. He's the CEO of the Blocko, and he's a member of the Grant Thornton Cyprus chapter. They will share their expertise and perspective on how blockchain technology will impact auditing and the accounting industry in general. And some proponents of blockchain asserts that it offers a drastically new way of how to record, process, store financial transactions and information, and has the potential to fundamentally change the landscape of accounting and the accounting profession. And of course, it provides general value propositions such as it can reduce fraud, reduce auditing processes and error, and improve regulatory compliance. Again, I will introduce first our speaker. First speaker will be Dr. Maria Papadaki, and she has over 10 years of experience in risk management, both in academia and industry. She obtained her undergraduate degree at Salford University, completed her master's in project management in University of Manchester in 2005, and furthered her studies, completing her PhD in University of Manchester as well. And then, of course, she has experience with private sectors, being a respected risk manager expert at Rolls-Royce. And she actually currently the director at the University of Dubai for their Risk Innovation Center. And of course, she also lead the first implementation of blockchain certificates, first in the Middle East, in Dubai, British University of Dubai, and her expertise along with different areas such as risk management, as I mentioned a while ago, and she is also focused on artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and enterprise risk management. Maria, would you mind giving us first some of your insight in the academic and of course some of the private sector, how blockchain impact the accounting professions?
I think thank you for inviting me. It's an honor. And thank you for being here in this crazy COVID time. It's good to still talk about blockchain. So the first step that we need to do is about bringing together the academia and industry. Right now, the problem with blockchain is to find a lot of cases that it needs to be into academia and then to work in a common language. A blockchain as a profession will enhance the whole curriculum for accounting because it's going to enhance accounting. It's going to introduce a different component to accounting that it's going to be easier to handle, let's say, in a way that the accountants did it before. We have a history before from a single entry to a double entry, and a lot of academics are talking now from the triple entry. And it's not about, I read recently one work from Ian Greek framework that believes that accounting should be not anymore private, but we need to introduce another component, but not element. So another technology that needs to be worked by accountants and audited together. What blockchain will bring to the party, let's say, it's gonna link together. The problem with the double entry is about linking the books together. Okay, so blockchain, it's there, can bring the links the books together, and this can be open for the first time. You can obviously choose if it's going to go for an open blockchain or a closed blockchain, but obviously it will create a bridge by making things in order. You know how much burden they have, or the auditors have, how much does the cost of an auditing, the time, the accountant's time to trying to link together. So all of these trust issues, fraud, compliance issues, it's going to be solved in a proper way with the introduction of blockchain. It's hard to cheat when everybody is watching. So blockchain is there as a component to make sure that done in a proper way, and all people is looking, or the participant that we choose is going to look on the system. So it creates a very limited space for corruption, for sure. Less human interface, immutable. You know, the problem, the big risk that we have in the accounting, we have accurate transaction, easy to verify by accountants, and all of these need to be linked to a theory and need to be linked and worked in the curriculums of the students. So the students right now need to work towards innovating accounting with the industry, and this is how we're going to evolve. You know, I don't know if it's relevant, but it's, I think it's the machine of the accounting, of the new era of the accounting. And how we're going to be innovative is by linking industry, government, and recalling the triple helix and the academia together. So international links, we can create international links, and the accounting, the main problem of accounting is about the international. People cannot see, they're not have a single identity, let's say. They have different identities, different things, but with blockchain, you will be a person with all your transaction in the world, and you can do it. Okay, so it's a transparent, open system. I don't know if this is what, if I can kick off the conversation like that, but I think the blockchain is a tool that people cannot be afraid of using, but it's not going to take any people's jobs, but it's going to create a simpler way of us to work remotely, let's say.
Okay, well, thank you, Maria, for giving your perspective. Again, our second speaker is from our own Philippine tax whiz, aka so Mon Abrea, a good friend of mine. It's really a pleasure, and really thank you for joining us. You know, your precious time to really share your perspective. I'll do a quick introduction about your short bio. So he's considered one of the most outstanding young persons of the world, as well as a 2015 outstanding young men of the Philippines. A distinguished veteran in the field of accounting and taxation. He's also an alumnus of the 2016 Fall Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, sponsored by the Department of State here in the US. And he is a recipient of the Rappler Move Award of 2016. And you know, he's really a dear friend. And he's not only just giving tax advice, he also an author, of course. He wrote a good book that really encourages many Filipinos and entrepreneurs to pay what is the right. Actually, let me quote you what he said. And he said to me here, as a tax consultant, I learned to choose integrity over profit. With our game-changing strategy to do what is right and helping many taxpayers pay the right taxes while pushing for a genuine tax reform as an important contribution to the nation building of the Philippines. So here we are. Let's give a big applause to Raymond Monabrea. Share your expertise and your perspective of how blockchain impacting the accounting industry.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, world. I think the blessing in disguise in this pandemic is that we were all forced to adopt technology and really transition and pivot in a way that we have never imagined. Like doing this Zoom webinar wherein people would have hassled to travel around the world to attend seminars. And now in just one click, provided you have a good internet, you'll be able to connect to the world. So let me share some few slides. I'm really eager and excited to, I'm not a blockchain expert. I will be one of the beneficiaries. And we work closely with the Bureau of Internal Revenue here, the Department of Trade and Industry, the Anti-Red Tape Authority. And I honestly think the government should really invest and adopt blockchain, integrate it in the entire value chain so that, like Maria said, corruption will really disappear. Well, now there's hope that corruption will disappear. Gone are the days that we say we can only minimize it. But I think with blockchain, it's very much possible now. So, wait, I don't know, where do I go? Okay, so, okay, do you see it?
Yes.
So just give me a few minutes. This is exciting. Let me share with you a video first.
Most people are afraid of taxes. Even the word itself lang. Why should we pay taxes? We know where our money is going. There's no point in it. But the thing is, sa lahat naman ng ginagawa natin, halos may kakibat na tax eh. Just because they're not following the law doesn't mean that we shouldn't, because then nothing gets done.
ACG wants to help other
Young businessmen, young entrepreneurs,
make sure their taxes are good, they understand what tax is all about.
a fairer playing ground when it comes to business. There's no excuse being ignorant and not knowing about it, because knowledge really is power.
Kailangan lang ma-educate and ma-orient yung mga tao na magbayad ng maayos.
They're really trying to help everyone out by paying less taxes, but legally and paying it right.
Hindi dapat matakot yung mga tao sa pagbabayad doon.
Hey, we're all working together in one ecosystem. Let's make the ecosystem stronger.
Lahat ng gagawin mo ngayon will affect yung tomorrow.
And by paying taxes, we're helping actually everybody.
We have actually developed a mobile app, but right now we are faced with the data privacy issue and the authentication of several documents required by our regulatory agencies, which that's why when Maria was talking about the value of blockchain, I was like, yeah, that's something that we should have adopted last year or many years ago. So just to give you an idea of the mobile app, hoping to help more taxpayers.
Cool. Not a lot of people know me as a businessman. And as a business owner, we have to deal with a lot of problems, especially taxes. Now, we lose 171 hours each year with the filing process and 43% of our income just trying to meet our tax requirements. I didn't want the fear and hassle of taxes to keep me from doing what I love. So, just like you, I wanted to protect myself and my business. So, I went out and found the right people for the job.
Stress about taxes? Well, James and I developed the Tax Risk mobile app to make it hassle-free for you.
And the app makes everything simple. All you have to do is record, file, and pay.
Need to keep track of your receipts?
Just take the receipt, take a picture, and the app will keep a record for you.
You've got everything here, so you're never lost.
And once you've stored everything in the app,
will fill up the BIR forms for you, and you can make the payments using the app.
leaving you more time to grow your business or do what you love.
But this is not just for business owners. It's actually for everyone, and we don't have to be afraid of BIR anymore.
And Mun will answer all your tax questions through the Tax Quiz app.
Really? Yes, I will be with you every step of the way, because when it comes to protecting yourself and your business, you will never be alone.
Taxes don't have to be scary, and you'll never have to sit through a BIR line again. You get 171 hours of your life back without the worries.
You can spend more time doing things you really love with your loved ones.
Protect your passions and your dreams with the help of the Tax Quiz app.
So now we are said to be facing or preparing for the new economy. Our BSP governor, Benjamin Diokno, once said that new normal is an oxymoron. It's actually the new economy. while those in the e-commerce, the tech businesses, they're saying it's really the digital economy. However, I think the main concern there is how the readiness, how ready is our government, how ready are enterprises, how ready are people to actually adopt digital economy when we don't trust the system, when we still require so much documents. Like just this week, the Bureau of Internal Revenue issued another regulation, which is good, something that would require full disclosure in relation to third-party transactions, but it will require physical documents to be sent to their offices, which is very well, not really wrong, but given the threat of the COVID-19, in order to comply, they will have to risk their people's health and the possibility of getting infected just to comply with the regulation. So even during this crisis, our commitment is to fix tax problems. But you know, the reality is expertise is not enough. You really need to know people in charge. You really need to know the entire, to familiarize yourself with the entire bureaucracy. And I remember there was this transaction wherein a client of ours was supposed to pay $2 million. And yet, instead of getting the payment right away and the government collecting it, it took us 1 month because of the several verification of documents. And funny because they know that this is a foreign, the owners are foreigners, and there are a lot of, they are from different countries, and we had to secure one by one to complete the board resolution, the affidavit, and when it reaches when we submitted it, they require authentication, certified true copy. So it went back and forth. And the only reason for it is so that they will accept the payment. So imagine if only the government can also adopt some a blockchain technology that will not just address corruption, but improve efficiency. I see it as co-chair of our Ease of Doing Business Task Force on paying taxes. And that's always the argument. What's the value in it? Why do we have to require? Why do we have to check the books? Why do we have to photocopy it? Why do we have to submit it again? And in the Philippines, it's funny. We submit a lot of documents over and over and over again. Well, I don't know if my colleagues will be happy in the profession because honestly, audit firms, CPAs, we make a lot of money because of the bureaucracy, because they need to pay a third party to be patiently waiting with all the approval and etc. But again, what's really the value there? It's not your expertise. It's really your time, which was wasted, your patience, and sometimes your network, because you know the people, those people, they will process it immediately. Like in our case for Asian Consulting Group, when we do tax compliance and review, the risk is we can't authenticate, or we don't know if the documents sent to us are correct. Or if we send it to the BIR, will the BIR or the government agency honor it? Considering that most of the time they require certified true copy. Then when it comes to tax audit and assessment, believe me, a lot of souls were sold to hell because of investigation when it went during BIR audit or tax audit, because the government will always require a lot of documents. And the reality is, even if you show the documents, they will not honor it. They will say you need to authenticate it, you need to have it notarized. And we've spent millions of pesos for notarization just to notarize, to secure certified true copy over and over and over again. So if you deal with 3 government agencies, you need 3 certifications for the 3 government agencies. So again, this is a reality that we have to face. And now that we're talking about global competitiveness, ease of doing business, I think blockchain technology will be a must. It's indispensable. And now that we have offered the digital solutions, our worry is the front end is good. It's like a painting. It's so beautiful. But the back end, we will all die because we need to photocopy and bring the documents. But for the taxpayers, they just click our mobile app, it's done. But for us, we need to go back and forth just to make sure that the government will approve and will be satisfied with the requirements. So this is the TaxSwiss PH digital solution. We have the mobile app, but the back end is still dirty. There's still a lot of people behind it, and the certification of the government is also not too fast. So we need to adopt and help them so that we can already transact everything online. With online courses, certificates. We need to apply for accreditation for another government agency so that the certificates will have credits for the continuing education. So we keep
Is that the
complying.
PRC, the Philippine Regulatory Commission?
Yes,
Is
for
that
the
the
Philippine
agency?
Regulatory Commission, you need to submit a lot of documents so that they will honor and give credits. Considering that for the last 10 years, modesty aside, I've been lecturing and talking about taxes, and yet I am not accredited. So everyone who attended my seminar did not get any credits. So they have to pay and attend seminars where there are CPE or continuing professional education credits. Again, to me, that is against growth and competitiveness, because you keep requiring and putting build something that will block or delay the growth of the economy, professionals and businesses alike. So, but we never give up. We keep partnering with the government. As I have mentioned, as co-chair of the Ease of Doing Business Task Force, I think we are the only organization with a lot of memorandum of agreement and partnership with the Bureau of Internal Revenue, Department of Trade and Industry, Anti-Red Tape Authority. But even with that partnership, we still are faced with a lot of bureaucracy. In fact, during the pandemic, one of the issues raised is the requirement to sign the documents, actual signature. But we were on a lockdown and there were deadlines and nobody can actually sign documents. And we had to go through to the Supreme Court ruling and ask a lot of interventions until the anti-red tape made a ruling that the e-signature will be accepted. So imagine all the hassle, the exposure, and the risk involved, and the cost, considering that if you are a small enterprise, a small business, you wouldn't afford it. You will be penalized for not complying just because the requirements is too impassable to comply. So in the end, as advocates, we always remind everyone that yes, we can demand from the government, but if we want a better Philippines, meaning improve everything in our country, we need to improve ourselves and be more responsible. And I'm really, really excited about blockchain. Hopefully, it will really help us with the recording, the reporting, the compliance, because even if we have the expertise, we have people who are committed to do it, the government will always have a way to invalidate it or to penalize us just because documents are not authenticated or do not comply with a certain funny margin, size of paper, all these things. So, that's why I'm really interested to be part of this webinar, not as the expert, but as a beneficiary. Thank you very
Well,
much
thank
for
you.
inviting me.
Actually, this is an ecosystem, as you guys mentioned, Maria a while ago mentioned. So I think our third speaker, Alexis, will give us a little bit more deeper from kind of a little bit technical, but at the same time, it's really the value proposition in general of the blockchain. So I just want to give you a quick intro. Alexis has a more than 25 years of experience as a C executive in various positions in accountancy, finance, electronic banking, media, electronic content production, and he currently serves as one of the board of directors of the Grant Thornton Cyprus Distributed Ledger Technologies Business Unit. And of course, he's also a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales with over 150,000 plus members. And he has a BA degree with honors, University of Nottingham in UK. And he's also a member of the University of Nicosia Master of Science in Digital Currency program. So Alexis, have the floor and educate our participants and learners about the blockchain.
Thank you, Edward. Thank you, everybody, for making it. Good evening or good morning to us. It's a pleasure to be here. And as you mentioned, I am an accountant myself by profession, qualified back in the early 90s. And one thing that accountants should not worry about is that they would lose their jobs. Yes. They would simply have to evolve. I remember the head of the institute saying a few years back, accountants will need to become crocodiles, get in the water and survive. Otherwise, they will find our fossils in years to come. So that's what the accountant will have to do. Now, how can blockchain not have an impact on the accounting profession, as it is in fact itself a ledger that is distributed across a number of computers, or nodes as they call it in blockchain world. Now, because all entries in a blockchain are distributed and cryptographically sealed, it is virtually impossible to destroy or manipulate that information, preventing people from being able to, let's say, cook the books, I would say, or conduct other forms of financial fraud. Blockchain records, as Maria mentioned, are immutable. That is, they're unable to be changed. Blockchain is accessible to all relevant parties by employing the so-called triple entry bookkeeping model. The triple entry adds a third layer of entry where all transactions and parties involved are written on the blockchain, and the information is in fact shared with everyone that is involved. Now, this means that all stakeholders, whether it's the accountant, the auditor, the client, the regulator, they will have an identical copy of the ledger at all times. And it will be shared across a peer-to-peer network of nodes, computers, that is spread on multiple sites. Now, to alter that information in the ledger, it requires the permission of everyone that is involved, which means information on the blockchain can be accurately relied upon. Now, this security is bulletproof, as blockchain technology utilizes cryptography in order to secure the information and private and public keys to authenticate the users. Now, before they enter the information into the blockchain, businesses will still need to hire good accountants to interpret and categorize that information. Accountants will need to be the ones to implement and maintain the system. So no, accountants will not lose their jobs. Accounting will become more continuous in that as information is secure, encrypted, and transmitted to a network of members, accounting professionals will be able to provide more real-time advice to their clients and guidance. The future accountant will need to have a flair for IT and not just numbers. The accountant must work closely with the IT department so that they can understand one another's language. So it's very important for accountants to develop different kinds of skills. Now, going back to the video that Raymond played, what I will keep from that video is the fact that, yes, the new norm, the fact that most transactions are done electronically now. I mean, we receive 99% of our invoices, let's say, in electronic format. So when I send it to our accountants to prepare the accounts at the end of the year, all I send them is digital files. You know, they don't come and see paper receipts that they can vouch. When it comes to paper receipts, the risk of unnoticed modification is seen as comparatively low because of their physical nature. Now, in contrast, when it comes to electronic files, they cannot be perceived physically, and hence are extensively vulnerable to modifications. As a consequence, digitalizing paper records introduces the necessity for further preventive measures, as Raymond mentioned in the video. The result is a wide range of organizatory, technological, and processual provisions. Now, all preventive measures have to be documented in a conclusive manner for third parties to review, whether it's the auditor or the government. And surprisingly, many companies actually shy away from introducing a holistic electronic archiving system, although they're aware of the benefits. Now, using the blockchain makes it possible to prove the integrity of a file. One way is what we do at Blockco, which is to generate a hash for that file. Now, that hash string represents the digital fingerprint of the file. That fingerprint is immutably time-stamped by writing onto the blockchain via a blockchain transaction. We use the Bitcoin blockchain at block.co as we believe very much in decentralization, and we believe very much in the immutability of that particular public blockchain. Now, at any subsequent point in time, one can prove the integrity of that file by again generating the fingerprint and comparing it with the one that has already been stored on the blockchain. In case the fingerprints are identical, the document remains unaltered since the first writing of the hash of that blockchain. So what we do at Blockco, because most people don't want to know blockchain and don't want to know how blockchain works, they just want to make sure that blockchain is used to achieve as an ends to a mean. The way you don't know how HTTP works, but we all go on a browser and we all surf on the internet, but we don't care how HTTP works. In that same way at Blockco, we have developed a platform whereby all people need to do is just drag and drop any PDF file onto the platform, and they will have it returned back having been anchored on the blockchain, again in the same format. When you see, it all started with the University of Nicosia back in 2014, when they were the first ones globally to put their academic certificates on the blockchain. So what they did, they actually anchored a fingerprint of that document, not the document, the physical document itself, a fingerprint of that document on the blockchain. And they then shared with their students. So what the student had to do when they went for a job interview or for a government, or for whatever purpose of the government, was to present that PDF file having been anchored on the blockchain to a future employer. And all that employer had to do was to drag and drop that document onto a validator, an online validator that the university had developed, and now we have evolved as Blockco, and it would come back and say, this is an original document published by so-and-so to so-and-so about this and this. So this can be done on any kind of a document, whether it's an invoice that has been issued by a company, whether it's a receipt, whether it's a marriage certificate, whether it's a legal document, a power of attorney. I think Raymond mentioned about government institutions. Imagine the registrar of companies issuing all the company relevant documents on the blockchain. So every time you had to go to a bank to open a bank account, you wouldn't have to actually present a notarized document or a document stamped by a lawyer. And I will go back to how this affects the jobs of the middleman, the third party. I think there was mention of third party earlier on as well by Raymond. So imagine being able to just send to the bank that PDF file that had already been anchored on the blockchain by the registrar of companies, and all the bank had to do was to drag and drop that file into a validator, which would speak behind the scenes with the blockchain, just matching the metadata on that document to the one that was actually pasted on the blockchain. That would disappear any fake document on the planet. If any kind of a document was anchored on the blockchain, that would get rid of all fake documents around, whether it was a legal document, whether it was as I said, a marriage certificate, people claiming rights certificate, medical certificates, anything. Imagine any kind of a document. And that keeps seeing a reflection on my face, but I'm sorry, it's morning time here, and the sun is right outside my window, so I apologize for all the reflections, guys. So anyway, I will keep it at that for the time being. But as I said, in the accounting profession, for the auditor to be able to know that the electronic document they're furnished by their client is actually the original one, is a big thing. I've been through audits myself. When I was doing audits back in the early 90s, it was still the paper files that we had to go through, and sometimes we did call the issuer to find out, did you guys actually issue this? We had to carry out reconciliations between the various parties. All that will now disappear because of blockchain. I mentioned reconciliations. Imagine if the two parties to the transaction actually have the same view of the ledger. Why? Because for a transaction to be posted in the ledger, both parties to the transaction, the supplier and the buyer, will need to sign off that particular transaction. Where would the need be for any reconciliations as far as that is concerned? That's why I'm saying that the jobs will need to evolve, and accountants will need to do other more value-adding things, and they would need to become a lot more IT relevant. I will keep it at that for the time being, and then we'll get more into the auditor's role and how that is affected.
Sure. Well, thank you, Alexis, for that perspective. So at least, you know, our panels and our listener and participant will understand a little bit more on the technical terminologies. But I just want to, you know, start the discussion, and some of the questions. I was reading all the questions that our listeners and participants are submitting. First, as we can see that the blockchain technology has evolved, right? And there are two types of blockchain have emerged. Can you explain to us, Alexis, the difference between the permissionless and permission type of blockchain? Because people like getting confused on how really the blockchain in terms of this two types of blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, I did mention the Bitcoin blockchain earlier on, which is a public blockchain, a permissionless blockchain. That there's actually there's anybody that can actually participate in that particular blockchain. A permission blockchain is usually a blockchain that is set up by a particular entity or a group of entities. There's the so-called consortium blockchains as well. We'll find quite a few of those in industries like the supply chain, where you got the parties that are actually participating in that ecosystem being nodes to that particular blockchain. So to keep it simple, a public blockchain, anybody can participate, like the Bitcoin blockchain, like the Ethereum blockchain, and the private blockchains are more blockchains where particular parties participate because they cover a particular ecosystem which serves those parties. I'll keep it as simple as that.
All right, thank you. Well, this question is now both for Maria and Mon, because I saw this as, the question is, blockchain and digital certificate both address document integrity. And can any of you guys explain or discuss examples of how it's become better, efficient, and convenient of how the blockchain application on the you know, auditing documentation or anything that's like related with the accounting profession, how the blockchain technology can address efficiency and you know, the improved process. Any one of you can answer that question if you don't mind. So you want to do it, Amon, and then.
Yeah, well, in the Philippines, we don't use yet blockchain. In fact, I have a question then an answer, whether it will be an added cost or really something to help companies, or should we not, is blockchain something that the country or government should adopt, or the private sector or per industry? Because, you know, many decades ago, when we started introducing accounting system, software, etc. In the Philippines, a lot of companies are using that, but they still have a problem with government compliance because it has to run through certification, accreditation, and the cost keeps building up. So that's my take on that.
Okay, so, Maria, do you want to answer from your perspective, and then I'll add up with Mon's questions as well.
I think it's a very good question that Raymond put in place. It's like the problem that the big risk is with blockchain and the new technologies is regulation and compliance from the government perspective. So that's why I spoke before about the communication and the bridge between government and private industry. So both of them, they have to work together in order industries doing things that are not, it's going to lead to a legal aspect, let's say, to a law or something like that, or to a system that can be enhanced by government's process efficiency and operation. So the main area that we're now trying to improve is resilience right now. Resilience of an organization, resilience of a person, and resilience of a government system, not only the domestic, but an international perspective as well. So I think we need collaboration. Obviously, the start, which is now, it's going to start from the industry and academia, while we go up and governments will adapt. I'm lucky because I'm in Dubai. I'm in United Arab Emirates that they adapt the blockchain system. It's mandated from the top. So they are driving all the initiatives to make us work towards new cases, new initiatives, to report the improvement and everything, and then they adapt it in an excellent way. And we see other countries as well, and I'm not sure, but I think Cyprus is moving in this way as well. I think you evolved with Cyprus as well. So basically, it's the communication among the different stakeholders right now to make it possible to improve the system, of the communication system in the accounting, let's say. I don't know, but it rings me something on my mind while both they're talking, and also Raymond and Alexis. Alexis, are we becoming, let's say, I think I've seen the question about the hash as well. So are we going to be able to see each person's transaction in accounting by this single hash, let's say? So it's going to be a single identity for everybody globally, so they can see in a way their footprints in accounting everywhere. So is blockchain is going to offer that? Because in my mind, I think it's going to offer this, isn't it?
I'm not sure I understood the question, Maria. Are we going to be able to see you mean the creator of the transaction, their ID?
Creates a single identity, let's say, through the hash of the participants.
When it comes to the use case that Blocko is putting on the table, I'm not sure if I understood you correctly. Yes, we will be able to validate the idea of the issuer. However, when you're talking about, if you're referring to the triple entry system,
yes, not the ID. Not the ID. I'm not talking about having problems with Raymond said about anonymity is going to be there, but you will be able to see the transaction of the hash, not on the name of the person. But if you have a hash there, if you have like a block, you will see all the transactions of the block, obviously.
Of course you will, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, but let me go a bit back to on the government, how important it is for governments to be on board, and I'm really happy to see in the discussions that we have Steve Tendon with us. Steve Tendon, he was recently on one of the panels that on a webcast that Blocko did on the implementation of blockchain technology in Cyprus. Steve was the person that actually drove the initiative of Malta, the blockchain island. The term blockchain island is actually Steve's idea. Welcome, Steve. I'm happy to see that you're with us. And it is Malta being the first country to have introduced legislation back in 2018 concerning blockchain. And Cyprus is now following in the footsteps. And we expect that in Q4 this year, Cyprus will have its own legislation on blockchain. And yes, having a government that actually supports the implementation of technology does make it the all important. For example, I mentioned the example of the registrar of companies earlier. So unless government embraces the technology and legislates it, yes, acceptance will not be as widespread as it could be. Yes, private institutions are running it, but to have let's say a global, or not, at least a national level acceptance and implementation within government, yes, there will be need for that to be embraced by the government. Let's say how the auditor's job will be affected, because I was an auditor myself at some point. Auditors would be affected in two ways. First of all, they would have to audit digital assets. companies will increasingly hold on their balance sheets the so-called digital assets. Now, they will have to check for ownership, they will have to check for existence, they will have to check for accuracy, and they will have to check for valuation of those assets. So they would need to develop expertise on how to actually read blockchains, how they can actually audit transactions that have taken place on the blockchain in order to be able to do all those four things that I mentioned when it comes to assets of their clients. Auditor of the future would need to be a different beast in that they would need to be more closely concerned with validating systems of governance and controls, validating the security and the integrity of data within those systems, and being able to, being capable of determining whether platforms or applications are in fact operating as intended. Imagine a blockchain economy where every transaction is written on a blockchain. Governments will never lose money through unpaid taxes. There's less audit work, but it won't make the auditor redundant. Rather, the new auditor will need to investigate the blockchain and not the individual or the tax evader. So, Raymond, in effect, that's how your expertise would kind of have to evolve. Also, new lines, new service lines will be opened. This is a major opportunity that the blockchain will provide to our profession with increased access to our clients' data and more efficient audits. The door will be open for higher value and highly insightful advisory services. This is what blockchain will help drive the change in the profession and open up the doors to being able to provide a true value to our clients. Just to close off, it is likely that the auditor of the future will not even be an accountant, but a blockchain expert trained to identify and report ways in which blockchain technology can in fact be abused so as to avoid that abuse. I will close up for there. But Steve, I remember the question, I will come back to it.
Well, thank you, Alexis. Yes. I know, Mon, you really bring up a point where about the cost, right? In any technology initiative, it's the taxpayers who are going to ask, is it going to be an ROI? Number one, how is it? So I think based on what I heard from the industry, from the private sector, you want to do a pilot. Even in the government, you have to do a small pilot where you can apply specifically the blockchain technology in order to improve existing processes, especially in the auditing, say in the COA, in the Commission of Audit, if they want to audit all this travel of government official, right? So no one now cannot submit this receipts that is not, you know how it is. So therefore you have to do a smaller scale, right? So that's what you can see and work. As I think Alexis mentioned, you have to really work with your IT team because they have some technology terms that needs to be embedded within the accounting profession as well. And I think what I'm serious to ask the question, Alexis, is one of the panel said, or one of the question here, it says, it's the question of speed. Okay, during the tax season here in the United States, or even during the pandemic unemployment claim, okay, holy mackerel, there's like 5 million people. So what one state, I will not name, one state has to stagger people to do the application. So it's because the infrastructure is so not prepared to handle this type of claims, right, for unemployment. So how do you guys see how the blockchain technology can address some issue in terms of infrastructure needs? Because some countries who have a more matured IT infrastructure and more advanced in terms of digital economy platform. So what you guys see in terms of the issue on the infrastructure from a speed? Do you know how it's impacting the blockchain's transaction per second?
Infrastructure and trust on the new technologies, I believe, it's the biggest risk right now of us having not to evolve as a whole ecosystem. So, and we've seen that some governments are really so slow on adapting the new technology and the new digital technology. Okay, so we need to be able that's why we need the government to really go quick on this, because now it's the time that we cannot work slow anymore. Things like COVID and other pandemics like hurricanes made us to understand that we need to go to an automation system, and we need to be able to not to convince them, but they need to be the drivers, like they do in Dubai, like they do in Malta. Okay, and all this infrastructure, they need to be in place, and we're not now in a place of convincing the government. We need to make the people in the government chasing the industry, chasing the academia to transfer all this, to transfer all this system to us. And this will help the organization and the cross organization verification of and even in the taxation system, as Steve and the previous questioner was done, because right now there's a lot of treaties around countries and everything, but what blockchain is going to be there? It's going to make it visible, all these transactions, and suddenly, surprisingly, everything is going to be transparent. Wherefore, what we're trying to do, we're trying to find ways to go from one system to another. And even the countries right now, they have a problem of communicating the tax system among them. So really right now we have the technology to be in place, but if the governments are not invest there, then we will have a problem. But I think we are in a time right now that we have to stop convincing the governments on investing technology. Right now, the fund needs to be there and people need to go and work there. So the discussion needs to be stopped, in my opinion, right now. All the experts need to go to the government, because the huge risk of anti-bribery and corruption that a lot of companies handled the last decade, the huge risk of reputation, the compliance issues, all these big risks that they included in all organizations, top risk register, is going to be mitigated by, or it's going to be helped and improved by the introduction of the blockchain. But this needs to be in accordance with the government regulation, because obviously, Edward, we don't want to invest as an organization and then governments will stop because another regulation is going to come up. This is extra burden, extra cost for everybody.
Last question I want to squeeze in, because one of the person said, if you're starting to career in accounting and you want to be involved with blockchain, what advice you can give to the listener and to our participants here? What you can give as a simple advice to them? What type of resources that they can look at in order to get start of learning blockchain and how it's gonna be the skill set in the future?
Well, there's a lot of material online. They can start off by looking up a lot of researches that have actually taken place. I think I saw a link that Steve put on the chat by Ian Griggs, which is about treble entry. That's an interesting one, and I will be looking at. But like that, there's a lot of articles out there that somebody can start looking at. And of course, there's courses. The University of Nicosia, we run the MOOC, the Massive Open Course, that is free. And that's how it all started for me. It's about digital currencies and blockchain technology. It's a good introduction as to understand the technology first, understand the benefits, and then go more deep and more specific into the applications of it in the accounting profession. Going a bit back to the previous questions, yes, I agree that governments would need to embrace. And one thing that the pandemic has, well, a few things that the pandemic has expedited is, of course, for the need to go remote, the need to reduce physical evidencing, increase digital security, and to to learn to trust more in technology rather than people. And I feel that governments have come to understand this as a result of this crisis, that we need to go more towards technology. I know for one that Cyprus is expedited its initiatives in adopting technology. During the initial phases of the pandemic, a number of solutions were actually implemented in a number of areas that made the management of it and the handling of it a lot easier. And I feel that this will continue, and this will increase dramatically as we go along.
Edward, can I comment?
Sure.
Actually, I have a different thing in mind. I think the real challenge is how do we convince the government that they have more to gain than to lose on blockchain technology. And I will not single out the Philippines because I might be thrown out of my country. So it's because a lot of services in the government are manually done. A lot of manpower are devoted to verification of documents. Like for instance, in the Philippines, there are a lot of documents, but mainly these are issued by government agencies themselves. But you need to secure it from government agency 1, present it to government agency 2, have it authenticated by government agency 3. So I honestly think the challenge here is how do we make sure that governments around the world will see blockchain not as a threat to their comfort zone, to what they're accustomed to, where there's power, there's discretion, because blockchain will in a way threaten it. And given that, then who would want to be a mayor or a commissioner if you have less power because everything is transparent? Like for instance, Steve was mentioning about the transfer pricing, the cross-border. There's a hefty budget when you deal with those things with the government, because even if there are documents, they will challenge you in terms of authentication, whether it's valid, are the requirements, are the signature in conformity with what they want, etc., etc. But with blockchain technology, the government will lose this power. Because there's no way their words, their authorization is no longer needed because it's validated already. And a lot of government agencies around the world issue a lot of IDs, a lot of certifications. Like for instance, in my case, in the last 30 years that I have been alive on Earth, I have been asked more than 30 times of my birth certificate. And it has to be a certified true copy every time that I am being asked, as if I am being reborn every 3 months. So again, my thinking is the government is the real, not necessarily a bottleneck, but blockchain will not work if it, like in the Philippines, all our government agencies, the Department of Finance, or the Malacanang, the Office of the President, they're all talking about digital transformation. To me, I don't really appreciate what that digital transformation is, when we will still be required to submit documents, still get out of our offices and go to their building, etc., etc. So if the blockchain solution technology is the solution, then it has to be the government adopting it first. Otherwise, it's like getting a lot of softwares, but they will still ask for a printed copy.
Yes. Thank you, Mom, from very delightful experience.
Raymond, I think it's a
Philippine
sorry,
government.
Edward.
So, Maria, do you want to speak?
Yeah,
Because
I
we're
just want to
out of
say,
time.
I think
Sure.
Raymond's have a very good point there. But I think we are hitting on all the how can I say, the blockers that we had in any revolution. Okay, so we are now on the 5th revolution. So I think we need to work on these people on this, that they need to change the mindset from going from one step to another, that they're gonna think that they're gonna lose their jobs and everything. And we need to work on education and before the digital, the digital transformation, I believe.
Agree.
All right. Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate it. I know that blockchain is here to stay, definitely. That I can assure you guys. And I do believe that many applications of blockchain will continue to increase. It's just a matter of time. And I know it will change the way accountants operate. That's how we're starting already. Some of the private sector here, the big 4 firms are already doing pilots. It's not in a big scale, but you know what? You have to start baby steps. That's the same thing that the government in any country has to do, is to do a pilot. do a ROI, return on investment, making sure that the investment on it has shown. I think Maria, on the previous webinar, you mentioned about the cost savings in the university of printing diplomas and all other stuff. So therefore, it's really a matter of metrics we can show to the government. Yes, you can. Another thing too is the fraud. And I know in the Philippines, there's a lot of fraud diplomas, okay? It's not only the Philippines, it's also in the US. We had issue on that where a doctor is not really a doctor, but been practicing, or a lawyer, right? So that kind of like transparency, instantaneous verification and validation of that credential will really drive the next workforce, and the different organization will really start adopting this. So I really appreciate for your precious time, and all the participants will receive a digital blockchain certificates that once you registered on our webinar Zoom link that we provided. So we really appreciate it. Alexis, thank you. And then Maria and Mon, I appreciate for the time. For everybody, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you.